Hello, I'm Metal Matt, and you're listening to Metal Stream Radio. And it's great to be here today. This is my first show for Metal Stream Radio, and I'm so excited to be here. I've got a great show in store for you, so stick with us because we're going to be listening to some new music from the Dead Daisies, Alice Cooper, and some classic songs we all know and love, as well as a few rock and roll stories. It's really great to be here. Like I say, I'm Metal Matt. If you don't know much about me yet, I'm a singer-songwriter from England, and I was coined the name Metal Matt by Rob Halford of Judas Priest, which is an honour, because he was always one of my biggest influences, you know, and I've met him a lot of times, and really cool guy. So it's an honour to have been coined the name. I do my own music under that name, which you can check out. The King of Hearts, Alien Invasion. They had some cool introductions. Jeff Mantis of Venom and Joey Belladonna of Anthrax was introducing some of those songs there. I've got Mexico, which features John Foster of Bronxky Beat, and many more songs. Razor Edge with Tim Ripper Owens of KK's Priest and Judas Priest. So yeah, lots of songs out there to check out. Always making songs because that's what I love to do, and I hope to kind of give you a bit of an insight into songwriting and also some rock and roll stories, you know, on these shows that I'm going to be doing from now on for Metal Stream Radio. I've met a lot of people: Judas Priest, Dee Snider, Danny Filth. The list goes on. Many people in metal, and it's going to be cool to just talk metal with you for a couple of hours and play some great songs. So let's get into this. First up, we've got a bit of KK's Priest with the debut album, Sermons of the Sinner, which was just fantastic. I mean, I remember the first time I heard it, obviously with KK's departure from Judas Priest, he was coming back strong with this album, and that is what it represented. You heard his signature sound, his wow whammy kind of playing, really off the wall kind of stuff. But he also managed to demonstrate, a different style. He's kind of created a slightly new sound with KK's Priest, but still sticking true to what we love, and showing his versatility as a guitar player. I think he's one of the best, I think he's just such a fantastic player. He's the Hendrix of heavy metal, as I always call him. He's a good friend of mine, KK, and it was great to interview him a few years back. I've done a lot of rock interviews for my YouTube channel, Metal Matt, and KK was my first, which we did in person in Wolverhampton at a steel mill venue, and KK picked me up in the car at the train station. I remember him flashing his lights, and I looked over and it was KK in the driving seat, and I thought, wow, he's actually picking me up personally, which was crazy. And being sat next to KK on the way to the venue was very surreal, as you can imagine. Being my first interview and my first time meeting KK, it was something I just was so happy to do. It was an honour to be able to do that with him, and we've stayed in touch ever since. I think that interview was like 2018 or something now, long time ago, but we had such a great time, and it's quite a long day. It was just me on my own with the cameras and the sound. I had to mic him up and conduct the interview as well, and move the cameras around in between, and it was just me. So it was quite a challenge, but it turned out great. And one of my most proud interview moments. That was a great interview, really interesting, and it was an honor to do it. And obviously KK, because he's such a great guy, we've stayed in touch ever since. He's always supportive of my music and things, and I'm always supportive of his releases, because I've just always been such a big fan of Judas Priest and KK, so I'm so great. It's so great to hear that he's got this new music with Tim Ripper Owens, who sang with Judas Priest on albums Jugulator and Demolition. He's didn't really get the kind of treatment that I think he should have got. Ripper, a lot of these albums aren't available anymore and things like that. The Judas Priest albums, which is very strange because it was a period of Judas Priest, like it or lump it, as we say in England. it happened, and a lot of people love that period, you know. I've always loved Rob Halford's voice, you know. Obviously that's what most people do who listen to Judas Priest, but Ripper sure come and done a cool thing with Priest, and I think, you know, it happened and it shouldn't really be erased kind of thing. So you know, but it is what it is. A lot of fans still find it out there because, you know, the Priest fans are hardcore, and, you know, I think we've all heard that music and we know how great it is. But today, like I say, we're here to talk about KK's Priest and the debut album, and this is the title track, Sermons of the Sinner. I'm going to play you now. Fantastic song. I think it's just a masterpiece. When I first heard it, it was, you know, anticipation of what KK's going to be doing with this band. Is it going to be like Judas Priest? Is it different? And it's like Judas Priest with a like an electric shock. You know, it's so extreme, you know. It's kind of really taking that kind of sound, that classic metal sound, to the extreme, a bit like a Painkiller vibe almost, and Ripper is just screaming it out throughout these songs, and I think it's just fantastic, you know. He really showcases his voice, you know. So let's get into this with a bit of Sermons of the Sinner. I mean, what a track. That is just amazing. I mean, hearing KK shredding away and that signature sound and the passion, and Ripper's screams, someone's off the sinner! So blistering, I love that high vocal. That's something I kind of specialize in as well, just because it's such a great sound, and to do, yourself is even better, that kind of vocal, you can't beat it. It's such a release, and you can hear Ripper's just kind of, screaming it out at the top of his lungs, and it's, just fantastic. I think that song's a real masterpiece, and for KK to come back with that song, it showed, the strength of his material, and you can only imagine with Judas Priest what he brought to the table, but it's one of those things we don't really know. It's all in the magic of, the kind of imagination, I guess, with Priest and things, you hear the music and it's just amazing, but you can only imagine, what people brought to the table, what Glenn brought, what KK brought, what Rob brought, and together, it was a force to be reckoned with. And I mean, KK, you can hear how strong his writing ability and his musical ability is. So yeah, you can only imagine how much he brought to the table with Priest. Fantastic. And obviously with these albums, with the KK's Priest, he's doing the duo thing that he once did with Glenn and things, Glenn Tipton, of course, but with KK's Priest is him and AJ Mills, which I believe was a guy he knew for many years. He almost kind of was his, I don't know if he was like I wouldn't say he's trained him necessarily, but I think he worked closely with KK, because I saw for many years they were always, together doing things. I think he was in a band called Hostile previously, and KK was a big supporter of that and a big kind of help with things with that. And I guess KK must have seen his ability, how good he was a player, and he come back to him with this, with the KK's Priest, and he's really showed how top level he is, AJ, and fantastic player. And together with KK, I think they, like I say, they're a force to be reckoned with. It's really, really cool guitar duo. And I'd say, personally, I think it's as good as Priest, if not better, in a lot of ways. But I'd say up there, it's one of those things you don't have to really take sides. You just enjoy the music, and, it's just great to hear Priest still making great music, and KK is as well. And, I guess at least they're in harmony now, that KK's able to put all his musical, ideas into his project, and it's true to him. And I think a lot of fans will appreciate that, and be able to hear what KK is really all about, So yeah, that was really cool. Today I've got a few different things to play for you guys. We've got a bit of the Dead Daisies. I had the honour of interviewing Doug Aldrich the other day, the guitar player for the Dead Daisies, and he's obviously, you probably know him from working with Ronnie James Dio and Whitesnake. He's a fantastic player and a really down-to-earth guy. And I'm going to play one of their new songs off the new album, Looking for Trouble. And it's a blues album, and it's something a bit different for them. I've got a little snippet of from my interview with him where you can hear him talk himself rather than me telling you. Let's hear Doug Aldrich himself tell you about the new blues album.
Metal Maps, sponsored by Metal Stream Radio. Crank it up!
Welcome to the channel. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it, bro. I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate what you're doing, keeping metal alive. We need it, right?
Definitely, that's what it's all about. Releasing a new album with the Dead Daisies, Looking for Trouble. So when's that one coming out?
That comes out May 30th, and we're really excited about it. It's a blues cover album, something a little different for us, and we're taking it. We took a bunch of classic blues songs and rocked them up a little bit, and put our own spin on them, and it's fun. It's a fun thing. We just knocked it out really quick. It was pretty much recorded live, so it's got that live feel to it, which is nice.
So there we go, that's Doug there talking about the new blues album. You can hear he's pretty excited about it, and it does sound like it's a great album. So I recommend you all checking it out. We're going to hear a track off it now. This was the first single that they released with it. Yeah, worth getting the album, because it's good that there's still real rock and metal being released, or blues in this case, but it's blues with a rock and metal sort of edge. So yeah, check out this one. This one's called Crossroads.
sinking down. So Mr. Johnson, I said hello.
Woo! What a track. Down on those crossroads. I mean, how cool is that? A very kind of bluesy kind of vibe, but very rock, very heavy as well. A great voice there by John Corabi. Yeah, fantastic. Really, really nice song that. Great to be here once again. So happy to be here with my first show today. And it's just really cool to play some great music. And I'm here to kind of show you some songs which I love and I know you guys love too, and also talk a little bit about some rock and roll stories and things. Next up we've got a little song called Razor Edge, and it's actually a song by myself but featuring Tim Ripper Owens, who we heard a couple of songs back there with KK's Priest. This is a song we released quite a few years ago now. It was a song I just wanted a kind of rock song to kind of show off Ripper's voice more than mine, really, which I learned after it's not always the best thing to do. When you have a collaboration, you kind of want to step your vocals up to kind of an extreme sort of thing to show off both your voices. But when I heard Ripper was going to be on the song, I thought, well, I'll just let Ripper really take the lead on this one, you know. But you know, some of the feedback and things were like, oh, you know, Ripper sounds great, but you know, not sure about the other guy, kind of thing. But you know, that is the thing with making music. You never quite know what's gonna take off, kind of thing. But I kept my vocal pretty simple, pretty straightforward rock kind of vocal on this one. But luckily that was more on the original version, which was a kind of a bad demo. Since then I've done a better version, which I'm going to play you now, with a kind of a better vocal than I did originally, because I was pretty young when I first did this. I was honoured to have Ripper on the track. You know, it's great that he does this kind of thing, yeah, he liked the track, and he did a great job on it. I remember the writing process. I just wanted a classic rock song. Like I said, I wasn't trying to be overly impressive with a kind of a really complex song. Sometimes the best songs are quite simple, quite straightforward kind of thing, you know. So I just went for a straightforward vocal, and I let Ripper shine, kind of thing. And you'll hear he does a great job. Although I did step in with a few more screams, and I stepped my vocal up a little bit more on this version compared to the original version, which you can probably find out there somewhere. The original version is still out there. But yeah, this one, which I think I've titled Best Version, just so you know which one to listen to when you try and find it. I'm going to play for you in a second, but to tell you a little bit of a story, yeah, I remember the writing process. I just wanted to do something straightforward, something that's going to kind of resonate with like bikers, and kind of when you're driving in your car and you want a song just to play, classic catchy rock song. That's kind of the vibe I was going for with Razor Edge. And I remember writing it, and even my dad, we were kind of writing it together in a way. I was sort of throwing around lines between him, you know, between each other, just kind of make sure we got the best lyrics, because it's like, it's not every day you get a legend like Tim Ripper Owens on your song, you know. He's a fantastic vocalist, and yeah, I wanted to make sure we had a good song, and I think we did in the end. And it's a pretty straightforward rock and roll, rock, metal, whatever you want to call it, song. It just rocks, I think. So yeah, hope you enjoy this. This is me, Metal Matt, with Tim Ripper Owens on Razor Edge.
When your time is up, nothing left to see. You've taken everything away from me. I'm on that razor edge, dreaming of that new tomorrow. Can't slow me down. Riding fast and free, fulfill my destiny. I'm on that open road, there is no stopping me. I'm on that razor edge, dreaming of a new tomorrow. Can't slow me down. I'm on that. I'm on that razor. Dreaming of a new tomorrow, dreaming of a better day. And I'm Gonna live my life like I'm somebody. Riding fast and free, fulfill my destiny. I'm on that open road, there is no stopping me. I'm on that razor edge, dreaming of a new tomorrow. Can't slow me down. Razor I'm on that razor edge, dreaming of a new tomorrow. Can't slow me down. I'm on that razor edge, dreaming of a new tomorrow, dreaming of a better day. I'm on that razor edge, razor edge, razor
And there we have it. There's a bit of Razor Edge there by myself, Metal Matt, featuring Tim Ripper Owens. And I love it. I love to hear Ripper. It's probably not my most proud song vocally because it's kind of just straightforward singing kind of thing. And sometimes I step it up a bit more than that. But yes, like I say, this was the better take, the best version. It's got a few death metal growls in there, Razor Edge. And it's got Ripper. I love his blistering vocal on there. Riding fast and free, fulfill my destiny. That kind of section is fantastic. I love his voice on that bit. And I kind of did the growls underneath, the fulfill my destiny kind of thing. So it's quite cool to mix our vocals there. And I got a few high notes in there, so I'm happy about that as well. It's a song I look back on kind of as kind of a, these days I'd probably do an even better song with Ripper, but you've got to kind of start somewhere, and considering it was kind of my early days, I'm proud of that song for what it is, I think everyone's early music, you're always a bit like, that could be a bit different, I think the microphone, if I had a more dynamic microphone, it may have been a little bit better as well. But then I'm kind of one of these people who's like, does it matter always? Sometimes a bit raw around the edges, around the razor edges, is good, I think I'm always about having a bit of rawness to what I do. I'm not particularly into the over-polished modern metal that you hear today, because it all ends up sounding the same, I think, anyway. I think... it's a cool sound. You got all those kind of blast beats and gent guitars, with that kind of wham 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 kind of sound. But it ends up sounding all very similar and very over polished. The thing with metal is about plugging in, turning up to 11 and just blasting. Like the Motorhead ethos, that's to me what metal is, even though they define themselves as rock and roll, which I get, because it was kind of, you could almost dance to it. It had a rhythm, it had a pulse, so I think I can see where Lemmy is coming from. But in another way, there's nothing more heavy metal than Motorhead in my eyes. There's some heavy stuff. Maybe we're playing some Motorhead on the next show, because they're a great band I'd love to play on here too. But I've got a mixture of stuff I'm going to play today. It's quite exciting. To talk a little bit more about Ripper. I've met him a few times. He's quite a cool guy. I'm trying to think the first time, it was Bristol. I was a young guy, I was like 16 or something, and he was playing a gig in Bristol, which I couldn't believe, and it was this little venue hidden away, and not many turned up because it wasn't very well advertised, so it was a bit of a flop in that way. But then Ripper's show, actually, it was amazing, and it was great to see him up close, and he was putting on a performance like he was in an arena, his voice was fantastic, and he played Jugulator live, which he just does amazing. Hearing it live, it was fantastic, that Jugulator, kind of that really extreme, voice of his, it's just fantastic. And to our surprise, or to a few people's surprise, because there weren't many there, Steve Grimmett of Grim Reaper showed up in the venue, and you could see the moment Ripper spotted him. I was like, oh wow, he was so happy to see Steve there. Obviously they were friends already by the seams of it, I'm assuming, because they got on really well, and I got on really well with the support band, who just, after the show, he put his arm around me and just walked me backstage. And then I was suddenly backstage with Ripper, Steve Grimmett, who's unfortunately passed away now. I think he passed away maybe last year or the year before. He was a really nice guy. Obviously he had his health problems, which I think a lot of people know about. But what a voice he's got on him, He's a fantastic voice, Yeah, I always thought he's just got such a great voice. There's some of these bands that don't get as big as other ones, but they could have, The songs are just, fantastic. And See You in Hell, of course, is one of the songs, that they're most known for, Grim Reaper. And it's great that he showed his support for Ripper, he come along to the show. And it's a shame they didn't get and sing a song together, but I think they did tour together at a later date, and they did some different things together. It may have been Ripper's Three Tremors project that he did from time. Can't remember, possibly it was with them. Steve joined for a period. So I'm there backstage with Ripper and Steve, just listening to rock and roll stories. I can't remember the details, and I wouldn't go into things too much because it was private conversation, But what I do remember is something about hotels and how bad hotels can be, when you're touring, and some of the awful hotels that you end up staying in, Hopefully Bristol wasn't too bad. I think we got some good hotels there. I'm in Cancun at the moment, by the way. I think I didn't mention that, but I'm doing this show from Mexico. I live out in Cancun now with my wife, and who's Mexican, so you can imagine the great food and the great times I have here, with my wife. She's great, and she's not as into the metal as me, so it's usually turn that rubbish down, but aside from that, it's great, and she puts up with me and all the noise I make, all the screaming, so that's always a good thing. If you can find someone who puts up with you, that's the best thing. But anyway, back to the day with Ripper. Yeah, so that was the first meeting, and I got a photo with Tim and Steve. I was kind of in the middle of them both, and it was really cool. And I remember asking Ripper for a photo, and he was like, "Oh, it should be Steve you're asking, kind of thing. You should get his autograph, kind of thing." He was so happy to have Steve there, which he's right, I should have actually, but I didn't. But I should have got his autograph, but I did get a photograph, so that's good. And I can't remember who the support band was that day, but they were really nice as well. And like I say, he just put his arm around me and walked me backstage, because he liked me, I guess. We got on well, we were chatting a lot before the gig, I think. And I remember hearing before the gig, the rehearsal, and hearing Ripper sing, I think, the Sentinel or something. And I thought, damn, I just love this music. There's not many bands you can see where they're playing that music, apart from Priest himself and maybe Ripper, and myself. I try and sing that stuff whenever I get a gig and things. It's just great hearing it there, blasting out of the venue before we even stepped in. It was like, I know this is going to be a good show. So that was the first time I met Ripper, and then I'm trying to think other times. I met him at the Steel Mill venue when they did a show with Les Binks, and that was a great show. Obviously Les Binks passed away recently, another legend. It's sad to see so many of these legends leaving us now. He played on Stained Class, trying to think what other albums, Unleashed in the East, some of the really well-known stuff, and his drumming ability, the way he played, he was before Scott Travis, long before, and he was doing that double bass pedal thing, probably one of the first to do it, because when you first heard that on Exciter, it's like, this is crazy, crazy song. Rob stepped it up with his voice as well, just his voice kept getting higher and higher. The drums were crazy. Obviously, the guitars were just insane on that song. And so many other songs. But that is the one I think is going to be etched in people's mind when they think of Les Binks. Rest in peace, Les Binks. Really, really sad. I'm so glad I got to meet him. and that was at the Steel Mill, KK Steel Mill in Wolverhampton. They did a one-off kind of show before KK's Priest kind of formed. It was like early days almost, where it was starting to come together, the KK's Priest. I guess it was kind of some of the same members, Ripper, KK, AJ, but they got a different bass player, and I think Dave Ellison was he was on bass that day for Megadeth. He did a great job. So it was a really kind of one-off thing, and I'm so glad to be there, because it was for me it reminded me of the Live Vengeance 82 show of Judas Priest. They played Riding on the Wind, and Ripper was just singing it just like Rob. It's one of those things. I don't always think Ripper sounds like Rob. He's kind of got his own sound, but at that show he was, for the Rob songs, he was pretty damn close. It sounded Riding on the Wind. I think maybe the early Priest was in a different key. I think maybe this show was tuned up a bit, and he was singing more closer to original key, and that really worked, because he sounded just so close to Rob's voice on songs like Riding on the Wind, and they did some other great classics, and that was just fantastic to hear Ripper do. He really nailed that song, and all the others they did. So that was a great show. I saw Ripper there, and my last time meeting him was, trying to remember, it was just before I got married. I went to a KK's Priest show in Birmingham, England, where heavy metal is from, where Priest and Black Sabbath, all these bands come from Birmingham. So it's always a place that you want to see these bands play, because there's going to be some extra heart in their performance. There's some extra love, and playing back where they started has got to be a pretty surreal experience for them. So seeing KK there in Birmingham, great show, and because he knows me now, we ended up hanging out after. We had a few drinks and stuff, and just chatting, and got fish and chips and a few things, and me and my friend and KK and his manager, and that was really cool. Great before I was getting married. It was like a mini stag do, the best stag do I could ask for, really, before I get married. That was just a great little celebration to have a drink with KK after his show. And Ripper was there as well with some of his friends, but I was more with KK and my friend, just chatting away. And he's just a top guy, really down to earth, and after seeing him shredding up on that stage, to be able to get him a drink was an honour. He's a great guy. So that's my Ripper stories and KK stories for today. But I'm just going to get into some music again, because I've done a lot of talking. I can talk for England, but it's all heavy metal. That's what it's all about. So next up, I've got a really cool song, which is a band I love, Steel Panther. They're a band that are kind of bringing back the glam and hair metal kind of thing, but with kind of intent. It's real. It's not a spoof. I think a lot of people think it's just a spoof. I mean, in some ways it's a spoof kind of idea. They're bringing back the glam and hair metal, and it is funny. I love musicians who don't take themselves too seriously. But the musicians in the band, of course, you've got Satchel, who's the amazing guitar player. He was with Fight before previously, and I think he worked with Paul Gilbert and all sorts of things before Steel Panther, but he actually worked with Rob Halford for a while with the Fight band, which I love. And I even had the chance to sing with Steel Panther when they come to Bristol. They did a little acoustic thing before the show, and I managed to sing Into the Pit, which is a very extreme song for acoustic, but it was great. We had great fun. And I've stayed in touch with Satchel ever since. He's a great guy. I just wanted to play a song from their latest album, On the Prowl. And it's a song that I just loved, because it's the thing with the lyrics of Steel Panther. Sometimes they're quite extreme, and explicit. And this is one song which is more of a message, I guess, in a way. It's about the fakeness of social media, and you'll hear the ability these guys have got. They create some of the best, I think, the best music around for heavy metal these days. They've got the classic sound. Michael Starr's voice is out of this world. This is the first album featuring Spider after Lexi Fox left the band. So this was kind of the debut album for Spider. You'll hear him playing on this. You'll hear some great playing from Satchel, Michael's amazing voice, and Styx on drums. Styx Sardinia, he's a fantastic player. So this is a little song called On Your Instagram, about the fakeness of social media and I think Tinder matches and all that kind of thing. So let's hear this. I just love this song, On Your Instagram.
I fell in love with an angel staring at me through my phone. Not a blemish on your beautiful face. Your skin was perfectly toned, like Michelangelo and nothing to do. So he painted you, but I soon found out that it wasn't true. Why can't you look like you do on your Instagram? The girl that I want to screw is on your Instagram. Such a beautiful filter, like God himself that built her. Where's the girl that I knew on your Instagram?
There we go. Great song. I love that. Few lines in there just can't help but make you laugh. You know, I used to think catfish lived in the sea. You know, I love that line. I love Satchel's lyrics. You know, just a fantastic song, and with a message. You know, that's what I love about his lyrics. He often there's so much humor. I think he himself has said in interviews that, you know, he can't write serious songs. You know, he's got to write about different things, a bit different, you know. But he's always got a message in a lot of these songs. Not all of them. Some of them I think are just straightforward fun and enjoy yourself, and that's what this music's all about. Just a release, you know, and just enjoying rocking out, you know. So yeah, I think Steel Panther cover all areas, you know, in their music. There's some serious stuff in there, especially in the more recent albums, and that's one with a message of the fakeness, you know. Such beautiful eyes could only come from AI. How true is that? You know, that's the thing with ever increasing technology these days. Things are changing, you know, and we're not going to know what's real anymore. So yeah, it's a bit of a worry, but I think as long as they've always got 6 fingers or whatever, the photographs, we should be okay, you know. But once that develops and we can't tell what's real for sure, that's when it's going to get even more scary. But there we go. But at least we've got people like Steel Panther here to warn us, you know, about the dangers of AI and social media, you know, obsessiveness. I think we got to keep it real. Let's get rid of the filters. Let's keep it real, be true to ourselves, and embrace the true self, you know. I think that's what it's all about. But anyway, so yeah, great music there by Steel Panther. So many songs I could play, and so many that are pretty explicit, so I try and keep it clean, you know. And that's one of the more clean songs, and it's just a fantastic track. So I think next up I'm going to play a little bit of Alice Cooper, and it's a little bit interesting because it's not going to be Poison, it's not going to be School's Out, you know, all these songs we've heard a million times which do rock, but this time it's some new music, and it's not just new music by Alice Cooper, it's new music by the original Alice Cooper band. If you don't know already, Alice Cooper has got back together with his original band, you know, the band that did like all the classic songs, you know, the Killer album, and you know, $1 Billion Babies, you know, and School's Out, you know, all those classic songs, you know, and more, Pretty's For You, all the early stuff, and they've got back together. The kind of sound that everyone loves, you know, whenever I hear the old fans talking about Alice Cooper, it always goes back to the original band, because they do have such a unique sound. It's classic, and it's just, when you hear Alice come back together with them, which he has on occasion for one-off performances and things, you know, even he kind of sings a bit different and things, it brings out something that I think was the magic of those early songs, and whenever they get back together, that magic kind of comes back. I mean, I love Alice Cooper's solo repertoire, you know. Some of my favourite albums are like From the Inside, Dragon Town, Brutal Planet, some really heavy stuff he did, and some really just interesting perspective, you know, to his lyrics, you know, especially From the Inside really got into the characters of you know, the people he was singing about in the asylum there. So yeah, pretty crazy stuff for a lot of it, and I just love Alice's ability with his lyrics and putting it across, you know, in the songs, and this is no exception with this new album, The Revenge of Alice Cooper, and yeah, it's got some fantastic tracks. The album dropped, I think it was the 30th of this month, so yeah, the album's out there and now and available, and I was lucky enough to talk with not only the new guitarist, they've got a new guy on this one, with the absence of Glenn Buxton, who unfortunately passed away quite a while ago now, so he Jassy is the guy. They needed an extra guitar sound, you know, on the album, and they took a chance on a young guy, not just brought in Slash or whoever, which was being thrown around in the ideas, I believe, of who they could have got in, but they took a chance on a guy from well, he's originally from West Virginia, but he's lives in Nashville, and he's part of the whole Nashville scene. And he was recommended to Bob Ezrin, the producer for Alice, and someone who's worked closely with Alice for many years and the Alice band. He was recommended and he got the job, and he does his own music, Jassy, which is a name I think people don't know how to pronounce, I've heard, because it's spelled pretty weird. It's Gyasi. So that's Gyasi. So to pronounce it, I think it's Jassy, but even I may be pronouncing that wrong. but there we go. But he's the new player. He was great to chat with. I interviewed him for my YouTube channel recently. Really interesting guy, really down to earth, and he loves reptiles and amphibians. I've realised recently, just like me. Out here in Mexico, I'm always looking for different things, tree frogs and different things. And there's so much nature out here, which I just love. And he grew up doing a similar kind of thing as me, looking for newts and salamanders and things. We've got that in common. And we seem to have quite a lot in common. We had a really good chat for the channel, and I'll be sure to play some of that in future shows on here on Metal Stream Radio. I'll play some snippets of that. But today I've got a little snippet from Dennis Dunaway, the original bass player and songwriter for a lot of that original Alice Cooper band stuff, and of course on this new album, The Revenge of Alice Cooper. So I was lucky enough to interview him. He told me he loved my interview with Jassy, and he wanted to come onto the channel to talk with me. When I asked him, he said because he saw the interview with Jassy, he come on with me with no hesitation. So that was really nice, nice to know he enjoyed, the interview. And he was just fantastic to talk to, to talk to the one who come up with, School's Out for Summer, and all those kind of classic songs on that album, the School's Out album, as well as many other albums that they did together. They did all the songs we love, No More Mr. Nice Guy, trying to think of the other ones they've done. Halo of Flies, I mean, that's such a unique track. There's too many to name, but he was on all that stuff, and it was an honour to sit down and talk with him about the new album, which they're all very excited about, and I'm very excited about, and all the Alice Cooper fans are excited about, because this was sort of out the blue. There was no real announcement until it dropped. Nobody knew this was coming. They really kept it under their hat for about 2 years or more. They were working on this album, but now it's out, and there's a couple of songs that have dropped, and I think the whole album's out now, like I say. So we're going to start off with a bit of Black Mamba in a second, but first off, I've actually got a snippet from my interview of Dennis talking a little bit about that, so let's hear that now.
Metal Matt, Alice Cooper here. Good name, by the way.
From Black Mamba, I know the whole album's going to be amazing now, and it's I can tell.
I'm very happy that they started with that song, because I had, like you said, the dark side. That's why Alice always called me Dr. Dreary. I always favor the dark chord, minor chords, and I wrote Black Juju and stuff like that.
I love that.
I actually recorded the guitar part that you hear on I Hate You from the Detroit Stories album.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the album that was on. But anyway, as a guitar player, I'm a bass player. I just use open chords, the most basic chords, and then I make up a few chords which probably have a name that I have no clue what the name of the chord would be, and I favor those in almost everything that I write. A very, very similar chord pattern, but that's my style.
Yeah.
I'm happy within that little kind of limitation. So I played Blood on the Sun, played the whole thing, and then that one was very difficult because there's a tempo change in that song, and so you can't just go in with a click track and do it properly. We had to record with the click track for a certain part of it, and then the click track stopped, and then me and Neil are going to shift gears and go a little bit syrupy and pull things back, and then slowly and gradual build it back up.
So there we go. There's a snippet from my interview with Dennis there, Dennis Dunaway, of the original Alice Cooper band, talking a bit about the process of recording. Of course, he's talking about Blood on the Sun, which is another track on the album. And he says at the start there how he's so happy they started with Black Mamba, which we're going to play now. Black Mamba, yeah, really cool track. Of course, the snake has always been a prominent part of Alice Cooper. Always got a snake wrapped around his neck. And I remember a funny story, actually. When I was a little kid, I've been a fan of Alice since I was really small, because my dad used to play this music all the time, always blasting it in the car and different things. So I'd always hear it, you know, particularly like Raise Your Fist and Yell, Dragon Town, all those kind of albums, quite the heavy, you know, really heavy stuff. That's why I ended up being Metal Matt, I think, because, you know, I love the heavy stuff. And I remember I had an Alice Cooper shirt as a kid with Alice Cooper on, with Snake on it, and I was at the Bristol Balloon Fiesta and walking around kind of thing, and this woman said, "Oh, I know him," or something like that, and I just didn't know if she was talking to me. And I remember I just kind of paused, and because I forgot I was wearing the t-shirt with Alice on it, and I was only a kid, so I was confused, and she was like, "Oh, I know him, and I kind of looked away because I was like, I didn't know what. I thought, what's this woman on about? Is she talking to me? I don't know. And then, like, finally I realised, I was like, oh, Alice. And she said, yeah. She said, oh, I met him, I used to know him. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I think she was American, so it could well have been. But she said, oh yeah, he used to get the snake and, like, taunt her with it, like, wind her up, you know, he'd put it in her face, the python. You know, and she was scared of snakes, obviously, so sounds like an Alice thing from back in the day, sort of thing he might have done, you know. She didn't like it, you could tell, she didn't like that, but whether that was true or not, I don't know. It's, yeah, funny funny little story. And it's funny how, you know, you can be wearing a t-shirt and that can start off a whole conversation, you know, and you can meet people who've actually met the person on your t-shirt sometimes. It's just funny, a small world, you know, what the chances, if that is true, is pretty crazy, isn't it? And Alice is one of the few people I haven't met. I've met most of my heroes, and Alice is one I'd love to meet. You know, he's the real deal. He's the shock rock master and great lyricist, great performer. You know, if anything, it is his theatrics that, you know, make him just so sublime in performance, and, you know, unlike any other, you know, you see him, he's real. In fact, he was my first concert. I was up close, my first concert in Bristol, and what a way to start with pretty much my hero. He was the one, you know, him and Judas Priest were the only bands I really obsessed over, and Alice first, because he was, you know, my first thing hearing, really. I grew up with that music, and being my first concert, it was surreal. And yeah, I remember going to that show, and Alice was, I got front row, I had my camera, I was getting into photography in those days, and I mistakenly brought my Canon where the lens comes off, and I was only a little kid, like 13 or something, and the security took the lens off my camera, which I wasn't very happy about. Yeah, I think it was a bit pathetic, really, considering I was only a kid, but there you go. But I didn't let that get me down. I was at the Alice show and I just enjoyed it. It may have been a blessing in disguise, because instead of taking photos, I just enjoyed it, which I would have anyway, but, you know, even more so. I was in the moment even more so. And yeah, front row, I just remember Alice coming along. We couldn't have been any closer, really. It was really close. And he'd walk along the front of the stage, and he'd be looking at you in your eyes. You know, I remember just the intensity of Alice actually looking at me in the eyes. He did it with the whole front row. I'd say if you're seeing Alice, you want to be front row. I mean, he puts on a show for the whole theatre, but there's no doubt about it. He personalises you when you're in that front row, because he certainly did with me. I guess he knows we're the hardcore fans who've queued all day, you know, at least back then. These days you can pay, can't you, to get up front, which I think is totally wrong, you know. because you end up not getting the real fans, just the ones with money, you know, who don't want to wait, they just pay. I think the whole fun of a concert is, you know, if you're a big fan, you queue all day and you get excited, you talk with the fans. In fact, we queued all day, I remember, from about 11 in the morning, and the show was like at 7 at night. But it was great. There was this guy in line, Pete, I think he was called Pete Trustram or something like that, Trustram. But Pete, anyway, I just called him Pete, and we stayed in touch a little bit on Facebook and things after that. And he was a top guy. I recently found out he died, which I didn't realise. I went to tag him in one of my Alice Cooper things, and went to look on his page, and he'd unfortunately passed away. And yeah, he's not someone I talk to that often, but whenever it was anything to talk about Alice, or if I wanted to try and meet Alice, he always knew all the tips. He'd met Alice a few times, and I remember him telling me a story about him being in McDonald's and seeing Alice out the window walking by during because he was playing a show that day, you know. But he didn't manage to catch him that day. But he'd met him a lot of times, and he was just a great guy. He was a big fan, you know, and we were just talking Alice, and I remember him being impressed with my knowledge of Alice, because I knew everything back then, probably more than I do now, you know. I was really kind of so into Alice then, I knew everything, you know, and we were just chatting away, and yeah, we had a great time, and so that made the day just fly by, just talking about Alice. And you know, when you're younger, your passion for bands and things are even bigger, you know. You end up really as a teenager, I think it sticks with you. That's why this music sticks with you through your life. You never kind of get tired of it, because there's a nostalgia in it. You've only got to hear a song to bring back the memory. I think Rob Halford said that once in an interview. You know, you hear the song and it takes you straight back to your youth, kind of thing. It's like a time machine, you know. So yeah, in the words of Rob Halford there, you know, it's very true. So that's kind of what it is. I think when you're younger, you kind of, all the music and stuff it becomes your life for a while, and then as you get older, you kind of, the real world comes in a little bit. But when you hear those songs, it takes you back to a happy place, and I think that's the magic of music, you know. But yeah, anyway, back to Dennis Dunaway. You know, it was an honour to sit down and chat with him. I'm hoping I'll get Alice on my show here one day, or on my YouTube channel. It starts off on my channel, and I'll put some snippets and things here on the Metal Stream Radio, because I know it's very interesting to hear these legends speak. So that's one of the cool things, which I'm really glad I got a show, because I can share some of these interview things with you, and little clips, and tell you some stories which I didn't get time to tell you, you know, on the channel, on my channel. You know, I can kind of go into depth a bit more here and talk a little bit more and tell some stories. So yeah, Dennis Dunaway, it's fantastic to chat with him, and I ended up. So a funny part of that was it was my first Zoom interview, because I always use Skype for these virtual interviews, although KK was in person, my first one I did. But since then, it's always been virtual, you know. And Skype was a great way of doing it, but they've shut down Skype. So it was my first time using Zoom, and there was this 40-minute limit, and we had to wait about 15 minutes in between. But he was very patient and very cool, and yeah, I just had to say sorry. It's a bit of an annoyance with Zoom, because you've got to keep ending it. You know, I've since learned you've got to pay some monthly thing if you want to do longer Zoom calls. So yeah, it's all a bit more effort and a bit more annoying than what it previously was. You know, whenever I used to do interviews, very easy. You just get on Skype and chat away for over an hour if you want to. But Zoom keeps it a bit tighter unless you're paying the extra thing. So that's one thing I got to deal with now. For any future interviews, I'm going to have to figure out my best way, because it's all changed now. Unfortunate that Skype's gone, because it was handy for me for the interviews. But still, it's fine. I think a lot of people don't want to do mega long interviews anyway, so I'll probably just keep the interviews a little bit shorter this time, or we'll have to be patient and wait in the middle. You know, it gives you a little break anyway to catch your breath. You know, you just got to end it and start again. So yeah, that was one thing. You never know how rock star these people are going to be, and whether they're going to be a bit diva-ish, you know, because some people are. But yeah, Dennis Dunaway certainly wasn't. He's the most down-to-earth guy I've chatted with. really good to chat with and patient and just cool. Yeah, a lot of these people, you realise they're really nice. They're normal people at the end of the day, but they're also legends. But, you know, I've learned just, you know, all these people are just people, you know, and that's one thing I've learned by meeting all these people is, you know, they are human, and you just talk to them like a human, you know. The fanboy stuff doesn't really get you anywhere. You just got to be real and get to know the person, and I think that's why, you know, a lot of my interviews seem to be successful because of that approach, I guess, which I don't really premeditate. I'm just being myself and being normal, but I think it's got some good things out of my guests because it's not overly kind of rehearsed, or, you know, it's a bit more casual, you know, just how I like it, podcast kind of style. So anyway, all this talking, we are finally here now to hear the first single of the new Revenge of Alice Cooper album, Black Mamba. And now have a listen to this and just hear how classic sounding it is, how they managed to just totally recreate the sound of the early days effortlessly, you know. All they need to do is get back in the room together and the sound is there, you know. It wasn't kind of premeditated for them to produce kind of a sound. They weren't trying to recreate what they once did. They've just got that magic together, you know, when they get back together in the studio, and you can really hear it here on Black Mamba.
I think I'll hide inside your bed sheets, coiled into the folds of white. I'll just watch you while you're sleeping, darling, and decide if I should bite. So dangerous to touch. You're just a slave to temptation, baby. Perhaps you want me much too much. I think I'll hide inside your bed sheets, coiled into the folds so white. Just watch you while you're sleeping, baby, and decide if I should bite. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Into my eyes, I ain't domesticated, I'm not that civilized. I'm crawling up your leg now, baby, to whisper in your ear a little poison lie now, baby. You've got nothing to fear. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. I love your touch now, baby. I love to feel your skin
Yeah, 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 yeah. There we go. Bit of Black Mamba. Really cool. I think what I love with Alice on this is his vocals quite kind of casual, you know. I find with the original Alice stuff, you know, it's like the original Alice Cooper band, when they get together, Alice seems to just be a bit more himself, a bit more kind of casual, and it kind of works, you know. It's kind of with his other music, it's a bit more kind of a character, I guess, more so, and you can still hear the character in this, but I don't know, there's just a bit more real Alice I can sense in it, you know, a bit more casualness, not overly thought out, kind of where he's doing 100 takes. I don't get that vibe where they're doing so many takes till he gets the vocal right or anything like that. It just sounds quite organic, quite natural. That's, you know, me as a singer and a musician, that's kind of what I can see from that, you know, that there's something just a little bit different going on there, and I love it, you know, and I love how he kind of has a range within his voice. He's got kind of a casual kind of, you know, low voice, you know, you're cruel device, but he's also got that really rock edge to his voice, you know, you're poison, kind of. He can take it from that to a really creepy kind of la 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 honey kind of thing, you know. And I think that's what people love about Alice as well, his depth, and also just his ability to bring kind of that darkness, you know. He's got such a kind of darkness in his voice, a creepy kind of thing that he's able to do, which I don't think anyone else can really do, you know. Marilyn Manson's kind of almost got it in some of his stuff, you know. He's great, but Alice is the master, you know. He's just got something unique, and he knows how to write a hit, and he knows how to write just good songs, you know. I think that's the cool thing with the Alice Cooper band, you know. They know how to do a hit, and they don't try and do too many hits all the time. It's kind of, there's a lot of stuff in between, which is really cool. And just weird, you know, which I think only the Alice Cooper fans are going to appreciate. And then you've got songs like School's Out, Poison, you know, which Alice, you know, just knows how to write a hit, basically, you know. It's he knows just what to do. Some songs I think are written to be hits. School's Out, I think, particularly was one of those, which I've got some more clips of Dennis Dunaway talking about the School's Out album, which I'll do next time on the show, so be sure to keep tuning in. I'll be doing a regular slot here on weekends, I think Fridays and Saturdays. You'll be able to hear me, different time schedules, so yeah, look out for that. And I hope you enjoy. Anyway, it's been great chatting with you, and we're not done yet. We've still got a good nearly an hour to do some more talking, but yeah, that's Black Mamba, which I think is just fantastic. You know, it's a really unique song, and probably got some more Alice for you a little bit later. I got quite a few songs to get through today, and you know, one of the other songs off the new album I'll be playing a little later, like I say, so look out for that. For now, I'm going to take us in a slightly different direction now. I've always had quite a wide taste in heavy metal, and someone who always grabbed my eye was Gaahl. You may know him. I think he lives out in Norway. He's proper Norwegian kind of black metal, and he's kind of one of the guys everyone thinks of when you think of black metal. Other than Venom, the originators, you know, the more recent kind of black metal thing. Gaahl has done a lot of stuff. He was in Gorgoroth, and you may know Carving a Giant, that's a great song. And Godseed, you know, Sign of an Open Eye was one of my favourites. And he's got a real intensity as a performer. He's kind of got a stare. He doesn't blink, you know, and he's got his corpse paint on. He's very intimidating character, you know. Particularly like to work with Godseed, you know, Sign of an Open Eye and Awake. You know, some great songs, and particularly live. I love to watch him live because that's where you see the intensity. And he also... his voice is extreme, you know. He's got a very powerful kind of voice, you know, very dark voice, really evil sounding, but also he can let out some screams. If you watch his live performances of Sign of an Open Eye, often hear let out a scream, like a King Diamond kind of scream, which is really cool and a surprise. I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, wow, what? And you know, if you read all the comments on YouTube and all these places, there's a lot of people like, wow, he let out a King Diamond scream there. You know, a lot of people were surprised. Yeah, the reason I'm here to talk about Gaahl is he doesn't do the whole Gorgoroth Godseed stuff anymore, I don't believe. I mean, he definitely doesn't do Gorgoroth. I think that was a long time ago now, and then he had Godseed for quite a while. But now it's Gaahl's WYRD, and that's spelt Gaahl, G-A-A-H-L-S, Gaahl's, and then WYRD is W-Y-R-D. So I'm guessing it's pronounced Gaahl's WYRD. I'm pretty sure. I can't think of another way to pronounce it. But Gaahl's WYRD. They've got a new album, Braiding the Stories. The album art is quite cool. It's kind of like a pagan kind of look about the album art, and it's got hair, kind of like hair, what appears to be hair as the kind of photograph, and it's kind of a dark brown colour with the kind of words Gaahl's WYRD etched into it, almost like a tree trunk. So yeah, check out the album art, it looks very cool. But we're here to hear some songs off Braiding the Stories, or at least one song today I'll play. And I picked out a song which I think is very different for Gaahl, you know, a different sound altogether to some of his other stuff with Godseed and Gorgoroth, you know. And also Wardruna, he did some great vocals with Wardruna, which are an amazing band, very Viking sounding, very kind of trippy. I mean, I used to listen to that album a lot, and it almost takes you into a trance, you know. They've done a couple of albums, but the album Gaahl was on, I listened to a lot, which I can't remember which one that was actually. I'll see if I can find it. But yeah, it was fantastic, and that isn't metal at all, you know. But it was a great album. I think Gaahl. I'm just looking now to see which album it was I used to listen to, because it's been a while since I've listened to that album. But it's fantastic, you know, really, really good stuff. Right, I think it's called Gap Varginunga, something like that. Gap Varginunga. It's not in English, so I'm just doing my best to pronounce that. But yeah, I think that was the album I used to listen to a lot, and some great vocals on that from Gaahl, but also other musicians in the band, you know. Gaahl would just come in now and again. But it was great, and just the whole atmosphere of the Wardruna music is great. It's kind of, there's a lot of like just like you're outside in Norway or whatever, and it's lots of like nature sounds, and you know, drums beating, and you know, pagan kind of Viking kind of vibe, big drums, and you know, it's just a really dramatic kind of music. And not metal really, so he's shown his versatility, you know. So that's something I used to listen to as well. But this Gaahl's WYRD, I'd say it's got a little bit of a taste of Wardruna in a way. It's got that kind of a feel about it. You know, a bit of a kind of I guess pagan kind of vibe. That's kind of what I'm getting from it anyway. We'll have a listen now to Time and Timeless Timeline. Very strange name, but you should be able to remember it. Time and Timeless Timeline. So this is the official song, which we're going to hear now. And yeah, hope you enjoy, guys.
Rolled away
Wow. I mean, that is extreme. Really like that. To give you a bit of information about Gaahl's WYRD, so they're Norwegian black metal based in Bergen. I don't know how you pronounce that. But being from Europe, you know, I should know, but I don't. But anyway, so formed in 2015 by former Gorgoroth and Godseed vocalist Gaahl. Great band, and WYRD were also from the same place in Norway, so I'm guessing how they're all connected. That's why they're all connected, kind of thing. And to correct myself a bit on WYRD, they appear to be Nordic folk and ambient dark folk music. Not necessarily pagan. I thought there was some pagan kind of thing going on in there. I'm not sure, but either way, it's very Viking influenced and folk, and you know. That was what Gaahl did for a bit with WYRD, but that is old news because we're not talking about that. We're talking about the new stuff, which is what I've just played, Time and Timeless Timeline by Gaal's WYRD. So check him out if you don't know much about his current band. I love that song. I think it's really, I love the little kind of King Diamond sort of vibe in the middle. There's quite a haunting thing going on in the middle of that kind of thing, some kind of high note thing going on. And also I like Gaal's kind of, it's kind of, sometimes it's just a kind of grunt with Gaahl and it's just pure power, you know. That caught me off guard, you know, very extreme, very, I wouldn't say it sounds as dark as maybe Godseed and Gorgoroth, but reading something here which Gaahl is quoted saying, he said, "I'm very pleased with what me and Tom have done together. We've created a lot of good songs, but I think the difference between us is probably the reason why I've started this new band. I've made a lot of my favourite songs that I've created in Godseed, and I brought with me one of these characters from the band." So there you go, he's kind of brought a Godseed vibe to this music, but it is completely different in a way. A little bit more kind of, I guess, atmospheric. You know, I wouldn't say it's the heaviest black metal I've ever heard. You know, it's kind of almost a rock kind of thing, but it's also kind of ambient, and it has the intensity of black metal with the drums and things. It's quite unique stuff. Or maybe I'm just so used to black metal now that it doesn't faze me anymore. Maybe to some of the listeners out there who don't really listen to this stuff, it may be more extreme than I'm kind of giving it credit for. But I just love it either way. It doesn't really matter how heavy something is. It's just whether it's good, you know, a lot of the time. Black Mamba, you know, that is a very heavy kind of song. You wouldn't necessarily call it heavy metal. The one I played a second ago, Alice Cooper, but it's dark, it's got all the kind of right ingredients, you know. But that's the thing with rock and metal, it kind of, there's crossovers. Sometimes things are really heavy and extreme, sometimes it's just good old classic rock, you know. And here on Metal Stream Radio, that's what it's all about, just appreciating, you know, the different genres, the different styles of heavy metal and rock, you know. And that's a song I think is really cool. And Gaahl, you know, he's someone I'd love to get on to interview sometime, so maybe that'll happen. He seems to be more difficult to get hold of than some, maybe I'll have to go to Norway if I want to do that. But either way, I'm just glad to play some of his new music, and I hope you enjoyed that, guys. So now I'm going to play something a little Halford. Now this is a cool song. I don't know how much radio play this song's got because it's a bit of a kind of a deeper cut, you know. It's a song off of one of the Halford albums. You may remember Halford had the band, Rob Halford had the band Halford for a little while, and this is a really cool song. And Rob's vocals are great. I kind of like that this song, it's not mega heavy, it's just a classic kind of rock sound, you know. I believe this is off the Made of Metal album, and it's a little song called Hellraiser, and it's kind of cool. Rob's kind of doing something a bit different with his voice here, kind of like Hellraiser. It's a bit more kind of poppy, it's not too extreme on his voice. It's kind of rocky, kind of, it's heavy, but it's, you know, a bit more of a catchy tune, and it's one you may not have heard. And you know, Rob is such a versatile vocalist, you know. I love his work with Halford, particularly love the work with Fight, more so out of his solo projects. But Halford, some great songs, great band, and yeah, it's great to hear a different side to Rob. I think he used the Halford band to kind of showcase what he's about, kind of like how KK's done KK's Priest now. It kind of you hear what they're about as musicians, whereas when they're kind of a mesh of musicians with, you know, Judas Priest, I guess you kind of don't know who's bringing what and what kind of style is more KK, what style's more Rob, what's more Glenn, Ian. You know, you don't really know who's bringing what influence sometimes, but when you hear them do their solo projects, you think, so Rob's really, Rob's bringing that side of stuff, kind of, particularly the lyrics. You can hear how the lyrics in Priest, they're not really too much different from some of the Halford stuff, and that's because I guess Halford's one of the primary songwriters, along with KK and Glenn. So you hear a lot of that. You kind of hear what Rob's all about with this kind of music. So let's get into this. This is Hellraiser by Halford. Wow, what a track. I mean, Rob is really showcasing a different side to his voice on this one. That's one of the reasons I chose to play that one today, and also because I think it rocks, I think a lot of you will be wanting to find that song and repeat it if you don't know it already, because yeah, it's not exactly one that is on the radio often or played often or anything. There's a lot of good Rob Halford songs which kind of might be lost to a lot of people, because unless you're digging them out, you're not going to know about them. But that's one song which is a real gem, I think. And I love, Rob's quite older there. You can hear that in his voice, but he's showcasing a different side of his voice, that kind of Hellraiser. It's kind of like he's got a resonance in his voice, like a Hellraiser. But it's not, he ain't grating it too much. It's, we're going up with a fight. It's almost like an airy kind of head voice, falsetto type of vibe. Hellraiser! He's not he's leaving it kind of poppy and, nice sounding. I kind of like that. It's a different side to his voice, So that's cool. I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Yeah, we've still got a little bit left of the show. We've got about 20 minutes or so I'm going to play some more great music for you, of course. And also, I want to play some songs which I got a story to tell, obviously. So I'm going to play you a little song, from personal experience, because it's one of my songs. So this is a song called The King of Hearts I'm going to play next. And it's a song I worked with a guy in Vegas, all virtually kind of thing. He approached me, I assume, sometime. I can't remember how we first got talking, but often I've been lucky to meet people online who found my music and want to work with me. So he was one of those people, and he's been one of my best collaborators, because we've done some really great songs together, like heavy songs. He's a very heavy metal guitar player, and he's kind of got Malmsteen kind of sound. He's very talented, and this song, he really shows some great licks and great little lead parts in between the singing and underneath the singing, really nice melodies. And I remember this piece of music he sent me, and usually how it works is I'll kind of tell whoever I'm collaborating with. I got some fantastic people. I got Sophia as well from Exiled Hope, her own project. She does a lot of great stuff with me. Carmine. I used to have a guy called Zachary Phillips from New York. He was great as well. We did some of my early songs like Wake Up, some of my synthesizer stuff, and also Unfaithfully Yours, which is a heavy one. One of the few songs I did a guitar solo on, actually, and it was quite cool. So yeah, check out that Unfaithfully Yours. There's a cool video for it out there as well, cool music video. But anyway, often with these people, when I've collaborated, I'll say, I want to do a ballad or I want to do a rock thing. Sometimes I'll give them a melody, different things. I don't know what happened with the King of Hearts, but I remember he sent me this fantastic sort of ballad. I'm assuming I might have said I want to do some kind of rock ballad. And, he sent me this piece of music. It's quite a difficult time in my life at the time. My grandmother was in hospital and different things, and it just got my mind thinking about life and death and all that kind of stuff. And also what makes life good. I was thinking about what is it really that, when you're on your deathbed, you're going to be thinking of, and, it's, holding hands in the sun and, just beautiful things, nature, beauty, and also how I was talking about how people kind of you never think you're gonna die. You think you're invincible almost, and often you don't really think about it, and you kind of you're always thinking you're not gonna die, and that was sort of something kind of important I put into this song. That was another thing that I referenced. So it's kind of a song with lots of different messages and lots of different thoughts that I was kind of going through. But I remember quite vividly, and I don't always remember the songs, writing the songs. Most of the songs I've written, I have no recollection of writing. But King of Hearts I do remember, because I remember sitting down with a pen and paper, doing it old school style, just sat there writing out words, and just writing the song. I had the music, I wrote it, and I think I wrote it and recorded it all in the same moment. It took me an hour or something, and the song was done, and I was really proud of it. It was just, sometimes you get inspiration, you get that feeling, and that's what you wait for. As a singer and songwriter, you wait for the moment, and it was all good that day. That day it's in my mind, because it was like, I don't know, it's like divine divine inspiration, or whatever, you know. It really come to me that day, and I knew exactly how to put it to paper, and I just did it and recorded it, wrote it, recorded it, and it was done. And then, you know, in my eyes, it's one of my best songs because it just flowed. And sometimes you don't know where these songs come from. I've heard other famous artists, you know, talking about I can't remember who it was now, but someone quite big was saying about one of their songs. It might be Bob Dylan or something. You know, he's like, I don't know where that comes from. You know, it's like some of these songs. He said I couldn't write that now. You know, it's just some kind of magic happened. It's just, you know, it was like the song was meant to, it had to happen. You know, there's no choice. And I kind of feel that with this song. And it's a song I'm really proud of. I think the music was excellent. You know, Carmine did a fantastic job on the music. I love his guitar player. We've done some great collaborations together. Rock Never Dies is another cool one we did. We've done so many. Alien Invasion we did together. And more, much more. You know, whenever I got to name songs, I can never remember any. But we've done a ton of songs. You'll find them all out there on my YouTube channel and on all the platforms. So yeah, this one particularly proud of is a rock ballad, and I was lucky to get Jeff Mantis of Venom, you know, the guitar player of Venom, fantastic guitar player, to introduce the song, and I'm so happy with that because it is one of my best songs, and I think having him on there was just the icing on the cake, you know. And he's a great guy, and as you'll hear now on this recording, you know, on this next track, you'll hear him on the introduction. He introduces the song for me. I had a fun time recording the actual music video for this one. There's a whole video goes with this song where I'm in king outfit, and I remember having nail extensions. I went for like a gothic king. First time I wore nail extensions, and I don't recommend it. They're very difficult. They weren't very good ones, so the nails would come off easily, and so basically my friend was having to like help me pick up things, the camera and the tripod and all this stuff, and I couldn't grab anything. I was like, I'll grab that, I can't do it, my nails are going to come off, you know. And you know, if I had an itchy neck or whatever, I was like, go on, scratch my neck, come on, I can't do it. These nails, although you'd think long nails would be good for scratching your neck, yeah, it wasn't, because the nails would come off. So I was very much in character. I wanted to keep this look. I bought a whole king outfit. I had a crown, you know. I went all out on the outfit, and we went to Chepstow because I knew there was a cool castle there, like a king's castle, you know, Chepstow Castle. And we just filmed around the edges of that, and it looks beautiful. It's a beautiful setting, and yeah, really cool video, kind of very old. I had a few props and stuff. I had this watch. I believe I sold all that outfit, all the key music videos I've done. I've had fans, I used to put it all on eBay and the fans would buy it. So a lot of that stuff has ended up in America, you know, all those outfits and stuff. I think Las Vegas, some of that stuff ended up in maybe Tennessee or somewhere like that. Someone else bought some stuff. So yeah, a lot of those props are gone. I wish I'd kept the pocket watch. There's this cool pocket watch, like the King of Hearts pocket watch prop I managed to get from a joke shop, and I love that watch, but unfortunately I sold that as well, because I never used to worry. It's just like, you know, it was good for the video. I don't need it lying around in cupboards. I'd rather fans who enjoyed the music to have it, you know. So that was what I did. But yeah, we had a great time in Chepstow, and yeah, here is the song, The King of Hearts. I hope you guys enjoy. It's a cool one, I think, so let's hear this.
This is Metal Matt, the King of Hearts.
Halt right there.
Oh, right, okay.
Time took me back to a place I had forgotten, lost in ways I did not know. When the days ended and the sun rised again, my life was still in turmoil. will still matter. You left me all alone. Time took me back, the King of Hearts. Time took me back, the King of Hearts. The King of Hearts. Broken in two. I'm the stars that talk to you when your light is beginning to dim. You must never let it win. Just let the light in. Life passes you by, always thinking you will never die. No farewell, no goodbyes. You're just all alone and left to die. The last words can only be heard by you. Time took me back, and you left me all alone. No one by my side. Time took me back, but you left me all alone. Time took me back, the King of Hearts. Yes, the King of Hearts. Eternally in your memory, holding hands in the sun. Romanticized, it's all fantasy. The truth comes at the end. All you have to do is close your eyes and die. Time took me back, and you left me all alone, thinking you'll never die. Time took me back, the King of
there's a robbery at the castle. I don't know if you knew. Have you seen anyone come down? You haven't? No, hopefully not. No, I've been robbed, but I don't know what to do.
Get out of my pub! Get out! Get out of my pub! Get out! And there we have it. That's The King of Hearts by myself, Metal Matt. And at the end there, that's a few pranks I did while I was in King outfit. And as I'm a big fan of Dom Jolly's Trigger Happy TV, which I've actually been in a few of his later Trigger Happy, is without the TV, but he did this other series, just Trigger Happy, with some pranks. So I was an extra in a few of his pranks. So I've always loved that kind of thing, dressing up and kind of fooling people, doing some pranks. So while I was in costume, once we'd filmed the music video, I pranked some Welsh people, as you can hear there with the accents, saying I'd been robbed. As the king in king outfit, in full king outfit, you know, I was saying I'd be robbed, you know, and also, you know, the castle's been robbed kind of thing. And also I was like, get out of that pub, you know, it's my pub. There's a lot of burly guys sat outside the pub, you know, and I stared at them. I remember I was right in character and I looked at them in the eyes. I was like, get out of that pub. But you don't really see that on the video, but it's there on the music video if you want to watch that. It's quite funny. And at the beginning there was a little prank as well, which you might have heard there after the Mantis introduction. I said halt right there, and I was up on this big hill looking down on the peasants kind of thing, these two people who were walking along the path. I remember I had to hide my phone in the bushes down the bottom of the hill so I could capture their reaction. It's quite a cool thing. You never know what goes into making a music video till you got to do it, but yeah, there's a lot of things you got to think about. And yeah, I managed to get the perfect audio. I shouted out at them at the right time as they were walking by, and my phone at the bottom of the hill caught their voice, you know, so that was good. But anyway, as for the song, yeah, The King of Hearts, Carmine on guitar, Carmine J. Putsu. He's a great player. He's fantastic. So you hear a lot of his amazing playing on that. For me, you know, I kind of went for a different kind of vocal, a bit well, it was kind of original to me, but I wanted a bit of kind of high voice. So, you know, I kind of, you could probably compare it to like King Diamond, bit of Rob Halford, bit of Udo from Accept. You know, I kind of got a mixture of things going on, you know. The King of Hearts! Kind of got that, and then I got like the always thinking you will never die kind of thing, that kind of bit Udio kind of voice. And also just some ballad, my clean voice, which is kind of my normal singing voice, which is why I like this song as well, because it's kind of got the depth of my vocals, I guess. This is the one song that showcases all my vocals, even a few growls in there as well. So yeah, it's kind of got all my vocal styles in there, kind of light ballad voice, but also some metal sound to it. So yeah, but the message is what I love. I think the song come together nicely, and it's just a really great piece of music. I'm really impressed with Carmine on this one. So yeah, proud of that song. There's only one bit at the start where I listen now and I realise I said the wrong lyric. You know, I said something about the sun rised again, I said, which I don't think is correct English. It should have been the sun rose again. But oh well. That's the only thing that niggles me now when I listen to it. I think, should have said the sun rose again. Sun rose again, sun rised again. But somehow rised does sound a bit more, you know, don't know, something to it, isn't there, you know. Anyway, we're getting to the end of the show now, guys. It's been great chatting with you, and I'll be back every weekend, every Friday and Saturday. This will be repeated kind of thing for different time zones and things. So yeah, be sure to tune in. Keep listening, Metal Stream Radio, and yeah, you'll hear me throughout the next few weeks. You know, I'll be every other week. I think I'm going to be on here talking to you guys and playing some great songs, telling some rock and roll stories, and yeah, playing some snippets from interviews I've done. So yeah, for now, I'm going to leave you with a song. You know, I want to see it out with a great song, and I've got a few choices, but I think I'm going to go with a bit of Pour Some Sugar on Me by Def Leppard. Let's go out with a party. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Metal Matt here on Metal Stream Radio. Thanks to Caroline for inviting me to do my own show. I'm loving it, and I'm so happy to be here on this great radio station. So let's do this now with a bit of Def Leppard.
Step inside, walk this way, you and me, babe. Hey, hey!
Living like a lover with a radar phone. Looking like a tramp, like a video bam. Demolition woman, can I be your man? Dazzling, that's a little late. Television lover, baby, coordinate. Sometime, anytime, sugar me sweet. Little Miss Innocent, sugar me, yeah.
Thank you, Metal Matt, for Metal Stream Radio. Be sure to tune in next time for more heavy metal.